We live?
We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Hi. I hope we can hear you.
Hello.
You want to go test it? Should we test it? I swear to God, the days just go by so fast. I think I'm going to get a microphone before Tuesday. I'm going to get a microphone before Tuesday. And all of a sudden, it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Nothing happens.
Go, maybe ask Liz to click on
Okay.
see if he can hear. So we're gonna get started really soon. We're sorry. Once again, we are a little bit late. We're getting started. So, anyway, kind of just sitting here, but welcome to Ask Us Anything. We are getting started in just a few moments. We're just making sure that everyone can hear us on the video before we kind of go into the whole show. So if you're watching this after the show, then please just fast forward a few times and let us know, or just fast forward a few moments and join us when we get ready to start. Moses, can you, Moses, you can't hear us?
He said get closer, because we're too far away.
Okay, then I'm just gonna sit.
Yeah, we'll just sit here.
Yeah, totally
We'll
forgot
be
this
all...
one.
Hi.
Okay, Moses, is this better?
Can you hear us now?
Well, good thing that this show, this episode, is filled with, what are these things called? Like, not, I know they're called books, but like, what's it called when you're doing a presentation? And you have, we need to start this
Visuals. This has visuals.
We need, visuals. We need to start this whole episode
No,
over.
it's great. This is what people want to see. Is
Real life.
This is real life. You said it's way better. Hello.
Okay. Hi. So anyway, this is Ask Us Anything with Dawnelle.
And Natalie.
So this episode, we have decided to talk about our most influential books, podcasts, blogs, me, my TED Talks, and I brought an entire chair full of visuals.
Oh my God, I'm glad you brought my favorite book. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So I thought we should do this episode because it's funny. I follow a couple people too that I really respect in the health and fitness industry, and you know, when they post about a great book that they just finished reading, or when they post about a podcast they listen to, I go right to it, and I either order the book or I listen to the podcast. And you know, when I say I order the book, these days I do a lot of Audible books. I don't have a lot of time and energy to sit down and read a book, which is kind of sad, but we'll get into that later. But what I do is someone like Hunter Fitness. Hunter Cook is his name, and he's under Instagram handle Hunter Fitness. And he's one of my movement inspirations, and he's a reader like I am. And when he mentions a book on his Instagram post, I swear I go right to Audible. So that's what I was hoping that we would be able to be for you guys out there. Her interests are a little bit different than mine. But other than that, I just think that sometime during this episode, you're going to attach yourself to a book or a podcast or a blog, and we think that's going to be great because the people who read the most or who owns the world, really. You know, when you read, you're transformed. When you read, you are in a constant state of learning and challenging yourself. And you know, just because you graduate high school or you graduate college or that part of your life is done, the idea of learning that it just stops is ridiculous to me. And really, to tell you the truth, since I've graduated college, I've absorbed more information through books and Google searches and podcasts than I ever have. So to me, I'm in a lifetime of university through my reading and my research and my podcasts and blogs and stuff. What about you? How does books make you feel?
Oh, yeah, I grew up like reading like my mom was a big reader, my grandmother was a big reader, my grandmother had a whole library of books at her house, like the little paperback books, and so I always had a book. I was always reading books. So I started, I think, with like everyone, with Nancy Drew, and like read every single Nancy Drew book. And I loved murder mysteries. I still do. And like confession at the end of every Nancy Drew book, I always read the end of it first, so I knew what happened.
No
and
way.
Then
I would never do that.
And then I would see if I knew how it was coming. Like, oh yeah, of course it was that guy. Like,
oh gosh, no way.
I loved it. Like 10 Little Indians, I knew which one. like was the murderer by the end of that because I'd already read it first. So
That's funny.
Yeah, I love reading.
Yeah, I grew up reading, like James Patterson and Daniel Still, and like the romance novels and the murder crime mysteries. Those are, I guess, two of my favorite authors growing up as a kid, as someone in high school and even early college days. As I've come into adulthood, I don't read for pleasure anymore that much. I don't read a lot of fiction, which, and I do sometimes. I mean, I love Paulo Coelho books, but even though they're fictions, they're fairy tales in a way. It's a storyline that I can really get behind, and it's a storyline that I can use to theme my yoga classes and flow classes and that kind of stuff. So right now, and where I've been the last few years, have been reading a lot of business, entrepreneur types of books, movement-based books, philosophy, that kind of stuff. So what about you? Do you read still fiction now as an adult?
Yeah, I love fiction. I love it. I like Girl on a Train. I love that. What was the other one that I just read? Because I do a lot of ebooks now too, because I would always leave my book on the airplane, so I would get a lot of reading done on the airplane. And so since I would leave my book on the airplane, I now do it all on my phone. I have the Kindle app, so I read books on there. So I read lots of murder mystery books, The Girl You Knew or The Girl You Once Had, stuff like that. So basically, I love Kindle because I'll read a book like Girl on a Train, and it'll be like, because you read Girl on a Train, you like this. So I'm like, I do like that. So
she's a flight attendant, so she has a lot of time to read. She has a lot of downtime to read like that. I, on the other hand, don't, and that's the reason why, one, Audible books have changed my life, and two, that when I do get the time to read or have the urge to read, I'm trying to learn as much as I can, absorb as much new knowledge as I can through my books. So for me, I feel like I'm a lifetime student, and the books these days have become that. I don't, maybe if I were to go lay on a beach or something for a week, I would go get some sort of novel.
She would never do
I
that.
wouldn't try.
She would never do that.
Try. I did though, just so you guys know that I've read all the Harry Potter books. I read all the Lord of the Rings books.
I've never read any of those.
Yeah, I love those books, but I read those when I was living in Alaska, so that was a huge. I didn't have a lot of things to do in Alaska, so I read a lot. So it was a perfect series to kind of get into. Those two were a perfect series to get into.
Yeah.
I read them all before the movies came out, so it was kind of awesome to me to be able to read the books and then watch the movies and stuff. So I guess what I want to do is go through some of the books that I brought so that I can show you guys some of these books. Well, one, I brought this book back to Natalie.
I'm so glad you brought it.
Yes.
This is my favorite book.
Natalie gifted this to me temporarily.
I have another copy at home. I love it.
I've had it for about 3 years. And it is
I don't think she's even read it.
Yes, I did. I'm the one that told you about our peak that we went to.
You did. Okay.
That is so she gives me this book one year, and I don't remember exactly the reason why, but she did give it to me, and I thought it was great. And it's all about this guy who is in his turned 40, out of shape, and he just needs something different to do outside of his family and work and all that kind of stuff, and he decides to climb all the 14ers, and it's a story about every mountain. Yeah. And while I read this book, it's Cobarro Peak, right?
Yes.
So while I read this book, I remember getting to the 114er. It was called Cobarro Peak, and it was about how he had to pay to go to this mountain. And I called Natalie after I got done reading this book, and I said, Natalie, and this was probably right around the adventure time that we were coming up for our adventures too. But I said, Natalie, after I read this book, the 114er, because I'm not one of those people that want to hike every 14er. I barely want to hike 14ers in general. I want to do it if there's like a competition or if there's some reason behind it. But I told her, I said, I really want to hike Cobarro Peak now that I've read about it in this book. And she said, oh my goodness, I want you to do that too because you have to pay to do that hike. And not one person in my life at this moment in my life will ever pay $150 to hike a mountain. And I'm thinking, oh, that's the only reason why I want to pay for this hike, because not everyone would be on it, and it would be like a rite of passage in a way, and you really an investment into that adventure. And so this book, really kind of added a great adventure in a weekend. We camped that weekend.
Yes.
We drove all the way to where it is. Where is it?
It's past the sand dunes, so it's almost to Taos. It's almost to New Mexico.
So beautiful.
Basically, it's so far down south. Like, you get to the top of the peak and you can see New Mexico. So it's very far south in a tiny little town, like way past Crestone, everything. It's way far south. So
I mean, the power of a book, the power of a gift. I mean, she literally gave this to me. It was the peak that I chose that she didn't have anybody to go with. We had a great time. It's one of our 52 adventures of our year, and this book is a great book. And anybody that's interested in 14ers or anybody that's interested in just trying to figure out a new challenge to be inspired in life, because that's really what it's about. Get this book.
Oh, I love that book. It's my favorite book. Every time I do a 14er, I read what his experience was on that 14er before I read it, and then I go back and read it after it and see like what I thought. So he has them broken down into chapters. He's got this nice little mountain thing on the front where he shows where all the 14ers are. Like, it's awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's such a good book.
The other book that's really important to me that is almost a daily book for me is the Tao Te Ching.
That's how you say it. The Tao.
Yes. It's also...
It's not Tao Te Ching.
No, it's Tao. It's Taoism.
Okay.
So how some people study the Bible on an everyday basis, I study Tao. So I guess you could call it my Bible, even though it's absolutely not a Bible, and Taoism is not, to me, a religion. To me, it's a way of life, and it's a reminder to live in Wu Wei. It's where I got the word Wu Wei from. Effortless action, without force, live by bending. That's how I came up with Wu Wei, was through the Tao, the study of the Tao. I've been doing this for years. I've been studying the Tao for years. It all started with the audiobook of Wayne Dyer, Living the Wisdom of Your Tao, and it started there, and then a friend of mine got me this, and these are the passages of the Tao. But the audiobook, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, is a life changer. I just love it so much, and I will come back to it all the time. Or if I'm kind of losing my way in any way at all, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, I'll just turn it on, the audiobook. I don't start it over. I just turn it on, and I swear to goodness, and it could happen when I'm walking my dogs, it could happen when I'm hiking a mountain, it could be happening when I'm driving in my car or washing my dishes. I will turn on this book, and it will talk about exactly what I need to hear at that very moment. And so I encourage you, whether you're religious or not religious, just to get even especially almost if you're religious, because one book doesn't do it all.
No.
This is, like I said, doesn't tell you how to live. It just gives you ideas of how to live a little bit effortlessly, with more flexibility of mind, body, and spirit. And it really has changed my life. Do you have one book that's kind of changed your life?
Oh, a book that's changed my life.
No, it's a hard question.
Let me think on that.
Okay. Well, because books are my thing, so I'm all like,
I love books.
Let me just keep going.
Yeah, I love books, yes.
and then she'll jump in.
Good idea.
Now, I want to move to the Daniel Priestley series of books. Daniel Priestley is an author that I found listening to a podcast called London Real. REAL, so London real people around the world, really. And I love this podcast, and I heard Daniel Priestley on there, and I got his book, Entrepreneur Revolution, and I can tell you that book has definitely changed me in so many ways. It has given me so many ideas, and I've launched programs off of it. Like I said last week, that I held a entrepreneur camping retreat up at Shambhala Center just because of this book alone. I've given it to every friend I know that is in business. That's Entrepreneur Revolution. I make my teacher trainees, like people that train with me to teach yoga or flow or cycle, they all have to read the book, because as teachers, you're entrepreneurs, and so there's just, if you're an entrepreneur at all, or even in spirit, get Entrepreneur Revolution by Daniel Priestley.
So good.
I don't have that because my book is with my friend Alba. So
Alba, read it.
Alba, bring it back.
You're supposed to read that last August.
Yeah.
Alba, I already read it.
Yeah.
Where are you?
And then his second book is oversubscribed, and this book is so powerful for people that do have their business up and running. And I gave this book to Natalie as well, right? Because you read this one, right?
I have not started that one yet, but it's in my e-library.
I keep telling her she should.
Yeah.
And then the third book of this series is called Key Person of Influence.
Right.
All three books are great. I think you should read them in succession. So Entrepreneur Revolution, Oversubscribed, and Key Person of Influence. Daniel Priestley, I just want to tell you, you're awesome.
So
I know you follow me
good.
on Facebook, and I know you follow me on
Obviously.
Instagram, and you literally are so amazing, and I'm not even very starstruck. I'm not a person like that, but you, Mr.
So
Daniel
good.
Priestley, write really well, and you have helped me take my business to the next level. And for that, I thank you. Do you have any business books?
Oh, business books that people should read?
That's what she's doing. She's drinking girl on the train. And
No, I do not have any business books for anybody.
So do you have any books that you
read.
have read that you want to go see the movie? That you think is important?
Oh yeah, The Glass Castle. That so talk about one of the books that I don't know if it changed my life, but it's such a good book. If you guys haven't read that, and I can't believe they just released a trailer for it. So, and I was like watching the trailer and I was crying over it. And it's got Woody Harrelson, I think, is going to be in it. So it's going to be a really good movie. But it's about this girl who, if you guys haven't read it, just a little brief cliff notes of it. It's about this girl. She's got some siblings and stuff like that. And it starts off with her driving around New York City, and she sees her parents, and they're like dumpster diving. Like her parents are choosing to be homeless, and like she's like done really well off. So it kind of goes through this childhood of hers, where it's like it's a memoir of this childhood of like growing up, being very poor, like being made large sandwiches and being sent to school dumb, like having holes in their shoes and everything, but kind of about this way that parents like choose to kind of live in this squalor, and sometimes they had money and sometimes they didn't, and her dad would get really drunk and like come home and do certain things. Like one year they finally had a Christmas tree and all this stuff, and her dad came home drunk and like lit the Christmas tree on fire and like burned the presents down, and they were like living just in this. So finally the Glass Castle is they find this shack, and basically like it's like squalor, right? But they kind of make it their own, and the kids basically end up kind of like escaping from the parents and going and starting their own life. And it's kind of looking back on like this childhood that they had, where the girl at the time, she thought like, God, my parents suck. Like they gave me this, they didn't, like have all this money in the world and do all this stuff for us. But really looking back on it, it was a very magical childhood for us, just because of the way their parents, like they always at the core of it, like loved them. And even though they couldn't always, give them the best shoes or clothes or whatever, like they gave them this great adventure of life. So it's a really good, powerful book. And it kind of makes you like think about like what's important in life. Like family is the most important, rather than just material possessions, which I always think is a great message. So
I do too. And I think all the books that I read, even the nonfiction ones, are like that. They just remind you that it's all okay.
Yeah.
And even the bad is good in a way, right?
Lots of memoirs. I read lots of memoirs for some reason, because I think that's my ultimate goal. I want to write a memoir. So that's kind of my business, I guess, is reading books about books that I would want to write myself. So
that's awesome. So is that Glass House?
The Glass Castle,
Glass Castle.
Glass Castle. So that's a good one. And the other one that I really like, the memoir I really like, is now I'm going to blank out on it, even though I just had the tip of my tongue. But
that happens. Forget it to remember.
The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion, or however you say it. So that's another great book about her husband. I won't go into too much detail, but something happened to her husband and her daughter, and just this whole year of like all this bad crap that happened to her, and how she kind of turned around her thinking to make it a magical year of learning for her amidst all this chaos. So it's
awesome.
It's a good book.
I think she'll write a memoir.
Yeah.
I think she'll probably write mine.
I would love to. Narrated by Morgan Freeman.
Ooh. Oprah, actually.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Do you need a charger?
I don't know. Is he going to die? I don't know. Well, we'll see. We're going to hurry up. We'll move through this quickly. So another entrepreneur inspiration of mine is Yvonne Chaudnard, from the guy that owns Patagonia. And she really should be reading every one of his books. He has a few. This one is one of my favorites. It's called Let My People Go Surfing, The Education of a Reluctant Businessman. The story of Patagonia and his business methods and his way with his people. When I say his people, I'm not just even talking about his employees. I'm talking about his product, his customers, his everything. It's such a beautiful way of approaching business, and I think this man is incredible, and I will like to gift this to Natalie because it's so awesome, and she's gonna love it. She's gonna love it.
I love it. I can't wait. Oh my God.
The other one that I want to talk about are these two books. I want to give a little story about this book. It's so battered. I have things written
Notice
on.
every one of Dawnelle's books is well worn.
Oh, well worn. I mean, I
She
love
loves her books.
my books.
She loves her
I
books.
mean, I love my books. This book is special to me, so special to me. And I know you can't see the cover because
There is no
got
cover.
ripped up. But it's the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. So the Tao, going back to the Tao. My friend Matt Gagnon gave this to me when I had my second abdominal surgery and was going to need to lay in bed for 2 weeks, where I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. And I had already kind of started studying Bruce Lee's method. I had watched a couple of documentaries, that kind of stuff, but I had never read a book. And even though he didn't read this book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, is basically his scribbled notes that they found in journals upon in his home after he died, and that his wife and his best friend basically wrote this together through his scribbles. And it's not even stories, it's his scribbles in here. And you have to understand how closely related this is to me. When I die, you guys are going to find 1 million journals. Some of them will be filled from page to page, and then some of them will be filled with just some scribbled thoughts just randomly through my head that I just get out and put it down, right? And so Matt told me this story when he gave this to me when I was about to go into surgery. He said when Bruce Lee broke his back, he had to lay around for 6 months, and he chose to move his mind instead of his body, and he read as many books as he can, and he gave me this book during that time. And I can tell you that because of this book, one of the reasons is the reason why Flo is around today. And so just really quick, I'll read. I saw this one thing that I had, of course, put a heart by.
There's lots of hearts in there.
Yeah, there is.
Looks like a 16-year-old's diary.
I just love it. This is such a great book. I mean, and of course I can't find where I want to, here it is. Ready? I love this. It says, to express yourself in freedom, you must die to everything of yesterday. From the old, you derive security. From the new, you gain the flow. And in all sense of every word in there, that's what my flow practice is about, and that's really the message behind it. It's new movement, new results. So this book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, so great. Get it, read it, love it.
Of course.
Bruce Lee's the man. I mean, I literally believe, I think he died in 1974. That's the year I was born. I could be wrong. I really believe that I am the reincarnation of Bruce Lee.
That is amazing. I just got chills. That is awesome. We are
I was
sitting here.
meant to keep the message
Thank you, Robin.
alive.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You guys would have been cute. You guys would have
I
been
know.
cute babies.
No, I couldn't have done that because I just loved and respect him so much, and he's great. So this book is great too.
That's awesome.
If you are a yoga teacher, listen. Stop teaching just yoga. Stop learning just yoga. Get this book, read it, incorporate it in everything you do.
Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have who in the movement world are you inspired by?
Who in the movement world am I inspired? You know what? I'm inspired by a lot of rock climbers,
Ooh,
mountaineers, people that they can just freaking read, like any guide, and it doesn't have to be even our guide that we hired, that we did for El Diente at Mount Wilson, and just he had done those peaks 40 times, and it's just like, wow, like these mountaineer guides that I meet and people that I use and start talking to them, they're usually well read. They have insane knowledge of rock. A lot of them are geologists or have taken geology, so they know like this rock looks like this because it slides off like this, and that's how it breaks. And it's like if you if nothing else, get a guide for an outdoor activity, rock climbing or the Via Ferrata or something like that, and just start picking their brain, because they have all sorts of, they know the history of these towns that you're in, that they're guiding in, and they just know all the landscape. And they know plants, they'll point out stuff like that. And any hiking guide I've ever had can tell you, we had a hiking guide in Belize that was like, this tree right here is called the give and take tree because it has these thorns that will stick you and stick poison in it. But if you look right over here, the leaves, if you rub the leaves on it, it will take the poison out. I'm like, oh, like I had no idea that stuff like that could happen. So I have major respect for people that can move in the outdoors and just feel more comfortable in that than home. Like Bear Grylls, I love Bear Grylls. Like that guy is amazing. Broke his back too, jumping out of an airplane, and he knows. He could tie a rope around something and just shimmy you across it. So I like outdoor mover people, the survivalists.
Have you found any type of publication where people are writing about their?
So Outside Magazine is my mom got me a subscription, and same thing, I'm used to reading just girly magazines that people leave on the plane, trash, junk magazines.
Don't waste your time, you guys. Stop reading shade. If you want to read teen, only because they talk great politics these days, and whatever they're doing over there is starting to be, oh God, it's going to die.
Oh no.
It's going to die. We need a charger. Go ask Moses for a charger real quick.
Oh no, what's going on?
The phone's going to die. Oh, so the phone froze. We think it's going to die. We're going to plug it in really quick and we're going to continue. So what she was saying was Outside Magazine is her publication. That's her go-to. That's what she's reading. She really loves and enjoys hanging out. We're going to have to move this there when she plugs it in. She enjoys reading about the experience of mountaineers, outdoorsmen. Hi guys. Oh, so stressful.
Very scary.
All right, so
very scary.
I love Outside Magazine too. I love that. But where I was going was, listen, I used to read Shape, and I used to read all these magazines, the Glamour, all that kind of stuff. But to tell you the truth, you guys, find something. I watch Gary Vee a lot, and he always talks about, everyone tells him, well, I don't have the time, I can't do this, how do you get it all done? And he goes, well, because I don't sit around and waste my time doing things that aren't teaching me new stuff or new ways to do it. And really, what are you learning in Shape that you're not learning from one of us in a class? It's better to take a class than it is to read a magazine on how to work out. Trust me on this, okay? So, pick up something that inspires you to get out there and move and adventure and have fun and give you new information. That would be my 43-year-old wisdom that I would give to you guys. I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time reading magazines that didn't really fulfill me, that more worked against my confidence level, to tell you the truth, So anyway, that's my 2 cents. So Outside Magazine, I read Psychology Today and Inc. I love those 2 magazines. Those are my 2 favorite ones. Outside, and what else?
Outside, I picked up a copy of Entrepreneur magazine.
Oh yeah, I love that one too.
Well,
yes,
I was at the auto zone, and I was like getting my tires changed. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it's fun reading these people's stories, like the difference. I learned the difference between, like, is it better to, if you have a business, to franchise it, or to license it to let other people use like your business name and idea and So the Entrepreneur magazine has a lot of good stuff.
She's an entrepreneur. She's much better off spending her time reading Entrepreneur magazine than Shape or Glamour or anything like that, as she just is. Okay, so start reading it more. Okay, Knuckles. All right, so 2 other books that really came at the perfect timing of my life. 2 women that really mean a lot to me and have really allowed me to stand in my womanhood and my creativity, and even in the times of resistance and the times I mess up in life or the times I fail in business or whatever happens, it's these 2 women that keep me going, and that's Brené Brown and Elizabeth Gilbert. Brené Brown's Rising Strong. This book was my Bible for a whole year, and still to this day I will turn it on an audiobook just wherever I'm at if I'm feeling the need to believe in myself again, and this is what she does. She really talks about being vulnerable. She talks that we all fail, and that we really just need to get up and rise strong again, and that's over and over. You don't just rise strong and you're strong for the rest of your life. Shit keeps happening to you. You find your way up again, rise strong. And then Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. I mean, I can't even tell you, if you're creative of any kind, most of the book is all about being an author, a writer. And even though I'm not necessarily a writer, it's still just about being a creative. I'm still a creative in my career, and to give me the courage to continue that creative path, that's what Big Magic does for me. And those two books are huge. I can't believe you haven't talked about Cheryl Strayed.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Well, going back to the question about what book changed your life. Yeah. Oh my God. Reading Wild, like that. I remember when I read that. That was just so, because I read that several years ago, and I thought they did a really good job on the movie. And even now, like, I'll turn on the trailer. I just go on like YouTube and like watch the trailer of the movie and just bawl my eyes out. And it's like the trailer of the movie. And I'll tell you what, I saw that movie twice. The first time I saw it because I read the book and I loved the book, and then it was a while, and then they did the movie. And then the first time I saw the movie, I think it was when Charlotte was little, and so, it was, whatever. And then I watched it again on Mother's Day because Chad hadn't seen it, my husband who's tuning in now. And oh my God, I don't want to give it too much away, but there's a thing with her mom in there. Okay, well, when her mom dies, being a mom, and then I was like bawling my eyes out, and my husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" I think I had a lot of wine too, but I put myself in my daughter's shoes. Like, what if I died, and then my daughter is sitting there like lost, and basically her mom dying just sends her down this path of like self-destruction. And I think everyone can relate to it. And also, every time now I hike a mountain, I have that opening scene in my head, and that's me when she's like, "Oh my God, what have I done? What am I doing?" When she's carrying that giant pack. And I felt like that when we did our Chicago Basin trip, when I'm in the hotel and I'm like getting the pack on, and you're just like, okay. And then you start hiking, and you're like, what have I done? What have I done? Like, why am I doing this? Because I think that's very relatable. And the fact that I love how she says that she was most surprised, like she could carry that weight on her back. Like, everything she needed was on her back. And I think that's what surprised me about backpacking too. And with Dawnelle when we backpacked, and with my husband when we recently backpacked, it's like everything I need in the world is literally in this pack. Like, nothing else. I really don't need anything else. And I can carry everything I need in this life to subsist. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
It is. It's a great movie. Book. I haven't read the book myself, but I've seen the movie 4 times and cry every time.
Yeah. The movie, the book goes a little bit obviously more until you understand more of the relationship with the stepfather, and as all books do, they have a little bit more in depth. Talked about the horse, like putting the horse. How important the horse was, and they had to put this horse to sleep that was her mom's horse, and how traumatic that was. So I think I've never lost a parent, thank goodness, but I think anyone I'm sure that's lost a parent can probably really relate to her struggle, and then just kind of how she chooses, like, I'm gonna just hike this trail. And I saw an interview with her afterwards too, because I follow her on Instagram, and I love her and her writing, and how she was talking about how because a lot of people asked her if she was afraid, about the hike and everything, and was she afraid that something would happen or something would kill her? And she said, she's like, looking back on my life, I am more surprised that I didn't die from a heroin overdose than I was dying being on that hike alone. She's like, the hike, it wasn't scary. Doing heroin, and like she could have overdosed any moment. So yeah, that's an incredible story.
It is, and if you don't want to take time to read the book, get the movie.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't, I can't believe there's anybody out there that hasn't seen
Witherspoon,
it. Wild.
She does an amazing job. Yeah.
This book is awesome too. My friend Alba gave this to me, or I took it from her, one of the two. Chop wood and carry water. The reason why I love it so much is because it really is the proof in the pudding that continuing the practice, continuing to show up no matter how fast or how slow it's going, and that you just never give up, and that eventually you become the master of it all. But it's like years and years. It's a lifetime of practice and dedication and commitment, and that is to me what flow is about. I said, one of the things about me being a teacher anymore is I'm not here to help you lose weight anymore. I mean, that's a byproduct. I don't want you to come to my classes just so you can lose weight. I want you to come to my classes so that the movement can heal you, inspire you, challenge you, itch you, change you, shift you, everything. And that is mind, body, and spirit, and not just on the scale or in a size 6 or whatever it is. So this is just a great one if you really want a lesson in diligence, I believe.
Ooh.
Yes. And it's a short read. It's a bathtub read. It's great.
Ooh,
Put, do some hot water, some Epsom salt, some lavender, candles. Literally, you could finish this book in 90 minutes. I don't know if you should sit in the bathtub for 90 minutes, but it's a
hot
short
tub read.
Yeah, it's a short read. You guys would enjoy it.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to get my list of podcasts really quick.
Podcasts. So yeah, we're talking about podcasts too. Dawnelle is the one that actually turned me on to podcasts, and it's actually incredible because there are so many podcasts out there, and I'm just kind of getting started. I think people on Facebook every single day like, what podcast should I listen to? And so we're going to tell you what podcast you should listen to.
Yeah, and I actually have them. I have mine. I even have episodes that I think you should do.
Dang.
So I have a goal of listening to 3 podcasts or 3 TED Talks every day. So it's just kind of like my homework. It's just part of what I do. It's a commitment. It's practice. Just like showing up to Flow every week. Me choosing to listen to 3 to 6 podcasts and TED Talks every day is my practice at home. It's my homework. So on the podcast, I didn't want to miss one. So I love the podcast Breaking Muscle. If you are a fitness enthusiast at all, especially if you're a teacher or a coach, you should definitely be checking out the Breaking Muscle podcast. Kylie Larson is the one that turned me on to Breaking Muscle.
Yeah, Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie. And she said because she thought I should be on Breaking Muscle, and I think so too. So if the people from Breaking Muscle ever want to bring me on, I would love that.
She'll be on it.
I would love it. So anyway, episodes 26, 19, and 8 right now are my 3 new favorites on Breaking Muscle. I also love Bulletproof Radio with Dave Asprey. I'm learning so much stuff, alternative therapy through him. I'm really interested in the role inflammation plays in pain, both emotional and physical pain, and so he really talks a lot about inflammation, and I really like it. 2 of my favorite, most recent ones, of course, is number 412, and that's about stem cell. And as most of you know, I have a hip injury that is requiring a hip replacement, but I'm really doing a lot of research on stem cell, and that's definitely where I'm going to go. Especially after hearing this podcast, it's really great. Also, number 409, the Whole Foods diet. He interviews the owner of Whole Foods, and I mean, I love him. It's just great. I also love Tony Robbins' podcast. The last couple that I've listened to is, you got to listen to the one with Pitbull. I know that sounds so crazy. This guy is an amazing marketer, businessman, and a human being. I love Pitbull.
When there's an apocalypse, it'll be Pitbull and the cockroaches. That's all that'll be left. The only people that survive.
There's also a good one on there called the Airbnb, The Art of Resilience. I have an Airbnb, and when I listened to the Airbnb interview, the podcast, I remember I was driving home from Texas, and I called Moses, and I was like, that's it. I'm going to do Airbnb, and when I do it, I'm going to do it so well because the Airbnb people deserve me to do a good job. So that's a great one. I also love this podcast called Your Creative Push. It's about art and artists. His themes are artists, but you can really take a lot from the art world, I think, in the movement world. It's all art, right? Movement is a form of art to me, so I love to dig deep into artists' minds and their thought process. And so some of my favorites are 5 minutes. 5 minutes are better than no minutes. It's got a great lesson in there. Basically, just do something for 5 minutes. I mean, it's better than not doing it at all. That's episode 240. Jump, get in over. Oh yeah, don't do that. Jump, get in over your head. That's number 195. 108. Learn what you don't know and teach what you do. That is my philosophy in general. Also, one of my favorite podcasts, and I listen to it almost every night before I go to bed or as I'm falling asleep, and that's called 10% Happier. It's so good. That book is so good. I started with the book, and then I went to the podcast. I just listened to, it's all about meditation, and I listened to how these people got into meditation and what turns in their lives got them there. And so I go to sleep to that podcast almost every night, I would say. I also love the Lifestylist podcast with Luke Story, and the reason why is because he's all about alternative therapies as well, and he hacks the system, and he figures out all these new ways. He's the reason why I'm on these herbs now, these brain tonic herbs that I take almost on an everyday basis, and so I learn a lot alternative from him. I also like Tim Ferriss and and London Real, like I said, and then I have tons of TED Talks. But what other podcasts are you listening to right now?
Oh my God, the podcast I'm listening to now, Don't Judge, is My Favorite Murderer. I love it. It's these two girls, and they kind of remind me of us, but they're a little, like, it's like how they got started. They just started doing this podcast. They met at a party because they both had murder stories, and they started talking, and they realized they both love like murder stories.
Are they true murder stories?
Yeah, these are all like true murder stories. So they talk about true crime, and so some of the episodes they talk about like their favorite murderer of the week, and you know what this murderer did. And then Chad, my husband, listened to it. He said it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. He didn't like the girls' voices, but they are funny.
But are they highlighting murder? Or are they making it sexy? What's going on?
So their tagline is "Stay sexy and don't get murdered." So they don't want to get murdered. So they feel like, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are into true crime, as I am myself. My friend Lindy's into it too. We love reading stories about these people that murder people in these vans and stuff like that, because you imagine yourself like, what would I do? How would I get out of that? If I saw a van in a parking lot, I would not get in that, you know? So it's like, I think that's kind of the theme of their podcast, is like, these are how people murder people, and then use as a cautionary tale not to get murdered yourself. So, and then they also read hometown stories. So they have people that write in about these murders that probably never even made the paper, you know, and it's kind of weird to think about, like, you're driving around neighborhoods, like, maybe that guy has his wife in the basement in a can, and you don't even know, like, you know, like, so they have these, like, hometown murder things. So every week, My Favorite Murder, I love it. And the girls are hilarious. They talk about like just crazy stuff, some personal stories they have too. Like one was an alcoholic and went to rehab and was talking about that. So, and then they were talking about, you know, they grew up in the 70s and 80s, and about how then, you know, like in the 80s, like it seemed like everyone was getting murdered, but that was when people were all latchkey kids. Like our parents would, you know, go to work and leave you at home and say, keep the door locked and don't let anyone.
Door locked.
You know. Well, you probably, just when you're home by yourself when you're 8, you know. Here's some money, go, you know, to the store, and you know.
Hope you don't drown.
Yeah, hope you don't drown. Hope you don't get murdered on your way there. You know. Yeah. So things like that. And then a couple of the podcasts I've listened to, and you know, I'm not super. You know, I think we both kind of moved away. Like I respect yoga for the movement, but you know, there are like things about that. But anyway, I do like listening to that yoga girl she's on Instagram. That's how I found her. I think Alba turned me on to her.
Oh, you showed me a TED Talk.
Yeah,
she has a TED Talk.
She's got a great TED Talk, and I love her TED Talk because she's talking about how she posted a picture one day of like her dinner and hashtag long day, and it had a shot of tequila, and like the next day she woke up and had lost like 500,000 followers or something like that, because people were judging her. And now she's had a kid and she's evolved, and she'll post pictures of her breastfeeding, and she gets all these people like, I want to see your boobs and blah blah blah. It's like, it's her Instagram. She can do whatever she wants. You know.
You should watch her TED Talk though.
Yeah.
We'll put the name. We'll put her name in the comment section after sometime today.
She's got a podcast too, and I do respect her because she got started. Basically, she was an Instagram person who, I mean, she lives in Aruba, so she's got that going for her. She's in a beautiful place and can take obviously amazing photos, or her husband takes them of her when she's pregnant, but she keeps it real, and she's turned her Instagram into entrepreneur, into writing a book, into her TED Talk, into you know, doing the podcast. And so she does a podcast every week called From the Heart, and she talks about different things. And one of the things she talks about that I think we're both sensitive to is how to deal with haters on social media and Instagram, or people that don't like you, and like, what do you do? And when you get all these comments about people that are mean to you. So I kind of respect her in that aspect, that she's just basically taken her platform, and she also does a lot of like animals, sanctuary, rescue animals, things like that. So,
but she's also telling her story. So then when it happens to you, which has just happened to her kind of recently, when it happens to you, you have someone to kind of go and feel connected to, and not feel so alone. Because when you're abused on social media in any way, you feel alone. And I mean, I feel so sorry for the younger girls out there and boys out there that are getting cyberbullied, because it is tough when someone comes after you online. And so I really commend this lady for sharing her story and helping others who are going to be in the same position as she is, just through the shared story. So it's great. So we'll make sure to put that in the comments.
Yes.
I know we're already out of time, so I'm just going to go through.
Out of time.
Like I said, I watch 3 TED Talks or listen to 3 podcasts every day. It's my homework. I have listened to more TED Talks probably than the normal human being. I'm pretty addicted.
I would say yes.
But so I did, instead of going through everything that I liked, I decided to tell you guys about the handful of TED Talks that grabbed me. They were the ones that I first watched, and the reason why I'm such a TED Talk junkie. Embrace the Shake by Phil Hansen. Watch it, listen to it, envelop it. It's amazing. The Power of Vulnerability with Brené Brown. The Transformative Power of Classical Music by Benjamin Zander. My Stroke of Insight by Jill Bolte Taylor. Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are by Amy Cuddy. Why We Have Too Few Women Leaders by Sheryl Sandberg. And How to Find Work You Love by Scott. I can't even read my writing.
I can't read that at all. Anyone can read this?
Kind of like Einstein when it comes to handwriting.
It looks like hieroglyphics. It looks like something you find on the inside of Jesus' tomb.
Yeah, I kind of write in tongues for sure.
Oh, God.
Anyway, Scott somebody. He's
Scott
great.
somebody.
How to Find the Work You Love. Actually, he's great. He actually just died hiking in Africa. That one in Africa. Which is that? Kilimanjaro. He was hiking Kilimanjaro with his girlfriend and died. That was a couple years ago. A rock rolled down on him. So when you watch that, just know he's dead. And he's such an amazing young man, and his TED Talk is powerful, especially if you're out there searching for what work fulfills you. It's a great TED Talk. These TED Talks are less than 20 minutes long. I'm telling you, if you decided to watch 1 to 3 every day for the next 30 days, I promise you, things in your life will begin to shift, and it will begin with the way you think and the way you look at the world we live in today. I know it helps me. I truly believe it will help you, but you can't just be like, oh, watch a TED Talk here and there. You got to put it into practice, just like you do everything else into practice. And everyone has 60 minutes. Everyone has 60 minutes to shut off the Kardashians, to stop freaking
Watching The Bachelor,
and
Alba.
flipping through Facebook and Instagram. You have 60 minutes to absorb some powerful information from some powerful people that are right at our fingertips. So look it up, TED.com, and go out there and be awesome.
Yeah, we'll post them all on the
Comment section.
on the comments.
And if you have a question about anything at all, let us know.
Or tell us what your favorite books and podcasts are.
Share
We
it
want to
with
read.
us.
Yeah.
I'll read yours if you read mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye. See you next week.
Did you notice?